The MoneroTopia weekly news segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Getting into the news here. Make this a little bit larger for you guys who are on the phone. Yeah, so it's been a couple weeks since the show has happened. So some of this news might be a little bit old. But this post from Monero Mateo is about Haven shutdown. And it reads, Haven officially shuts down. This was one project back in the day I really hoped would have some success. At least they put in a genuine effort to try doing the impossible. I think it's safe to say at this point, algorithmic stablecoins are a failed idea. RIP XChads. Yeah, so Haven finally decided to cut their losses and announce their project closure announcement after some disappointing findings in their recent attempted audit, which found there were like hundreds of millions of XHV that was basically fraudulently created. And so they decided to just go ahead and shut down after a long run of having a lot of inflation bugs and issues with their stablecoin.
Haven is a little bit of a tax write-off for Monero Talk LLC. they paid us in Haven for the first Monero conference, a MoneroTopia conference in Miami. They were one of the sponsors. It wasn't
RIP.
Wasn't anything significant, but we
but
never
now
sold it.
It's all a wash.
Yeah, I guess it's zero now, right?
Yeah, it's probably worth like not much.
Yeah, tis a shame. I think we'll get to later in the news. Zephyr, right, which is a spinoff of Haven, is also seeing some issues, but I think you'll get to that down the line.
Next up, we have a post from Lola Leitz, the independent journalist. The IRS new broker rule is a nightmare for every non-custodial exchange and swap provider. Built a website to let users swap between currencies. You're a broker under IRS reporting requirements. Built a mobile app to let users swap between currencies. You're a broker under IRS reporting requirements. Built a browser extension to let people swap between currencies. You're a broker under IRS reporting requirements. As long as you have the ability to collect fees on a trade or have the ability to affect the terms under which a trade is provided or a whole bunch of other nonsense, you're a broker, which makes pretty much any non-custodial exchange or swap provider a broker. Unless challenged, this rule goes into effect in 2027. That's a pretty damning and substantial rules that the IRS are trying to pass. There's this article you can actually see here from The Rage going into a little more details that was also written by Lola Leitz, talking about these rules that the IRS are trying to impose in a couple of years. I think we will see these rules be challenged. We already are seeing these rules be challenged. There's some congressmen that have talked about this. And this does set a very bad precedent if this were to go into effect. I mean, this is how a lot of wallets, like open source wallets, make their money, is by just having third-party swap providers within the app itself. This would be bad for the swap services themselves. It'd be bad for people who implement swaps. Is what it looks like. More details will come out, but hopefully this will be challenged. I think it will be challenged. I don't think this will end up coming to effect in 2027, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed it does not. It's still a couple of years away, but it would be pretty bad if it happened. And next up, we've got a post from Crash. This is a somewhat large account that's come out in support of Monero recently, quite outspoken. And their post reads, so many people say they love Bitcoin so much, but if they truly did, they love Monero. If you say you love BTC and don't love Monero, you are gay. So yeah, this is like a fairly large account, 250,000 followers. And they've been doing a lot of promotion of Monero. So this is what people are talking about when Monero is starting to get its word out. It's a lot of bigger accounts starting to talk about it. It's starting to get mentioned on big shows like Tucker Carlson's show, Roger Ver talking about it. It's starting to be get attention more from, I guess, mainstream crypto people who are like involved in like the meme coin stuff, Solana, Ethereum. It's starting to get seen and talked about a lot more. People are starting to care about the privacy, which is great to see. Moving on, next up, we got a post from Vic Sharma. Here you go, guys. Hashtag Monero on Ledger with Cake Wallet. Yes, it works with Bluetooth too. So Cake Wallet does have support for Monero on Ledger now, which I know before anyone says anything, it's Ledger. I know it's Ledger. They have some sketchy stuff. They have, Ledger Recover, whatever. This is an option if you want it. We have more things coming in the near future. And of course, we have Cupcake if you want to just use a separate phone. That's fully non-custodial, not tied to the internet or anything at all to store your Monero. But this is just an option. It's a one that a lot of people use. And it's the first, so Cake Wallet is the first app on iOS to support hardware wallets with Monero using Bluetooth with Ledger. So that's like a first. So if you want a hardware wallet and you only use iPhones, well, Ledger is now an option with Cake Wallet for Monero. So, yeah. Next up, we got a post from Untraceable. Monero delisting chart updated with latest delisting Gate.io. So there was a couple recently. There was Gate.io. There is something governments/regulators don't seem to understand. Monero cannot be stopped. Every delisting means Monero becomes more resilient. Demand migrates elsewhere where no KYC data will be collected, and exchanges will no longer be able to corroborate with chain analytic companies. Monero is the only alternative to transacting and storing wealth outside of a system designed to control you. So as we can see here, in his current version of the delisting chart, we see Gate.io delist right around here. There's quite a large jump for Monero. Now, around this time, there was a general market pullback. Monero definitely was affected heavily. It had a very sharp pullback, possibly helped by the Gate.io delisting, but it has come back up to a pretty good spot and is still sitting quite above its last couple year median. So not a huge deal. It will continue to go up regardless of these delistings. All right, we got another post from Lola Leets. Wake up, babe. There's a new filing in Tornado Cash. Roman Storm's defense has filed to drop all criminal charges as last month's sanctions reversal shows all counts of the indictments are fatally and legally flawed. In the sanctions reversal, the Fifth Circuit found that the software does not constitute property and cannot be owned or controlled, leaving the government's case against Storm hardly a leg to stand on. Much of Storm's prosecution relies on the government's ability to prove that Storm operated a service over which he held sufficient control. According to the defense, if Tornado Cash is not property and cannot be owned, then it cannot be a business at all, let alone a money-transmitting business. As argued in the newly filed motion, the Fifth Circuit confirms that the government will never be able to prove that Mr. Storm had control over the proceeds of the specified unlawful activity. In the legal system, circuit appellate courts exist to review whether district courts have applied the law correctly, holding the ability to set binding precedent. While Storm's criminal prosecution lies outside of the Fifth Circuit's jurisdiction, the ruling may be sufficiently persuasive to end the U.S. government's witch hunt and incredibly misinterpretation of the law. Shout out to everyone who backed the suit against the Treasury. You may have saved a person's life and the future of financial privacy for all of us. So that's some good news revolving around Tornado Cash and the motion to dismiss. That's cool to see. And yeah, hopefully Roman Storm will be fully acquitted on these insane charges that have been brought against him for creating Tornado Cash. Next up, got a post from Cardano Yoda. BlackRock published a video with this disclaimer: there is no guarantee that Bitcoin's 21 million supply cap will not be changed. Does it mean they control more than 51% of the hash rate? This is a funny video. If you guys saw, I think it was about a week ago, BlackRock released a video talking about Bitcoin, right? And it's like, okay, if BlackRock has a video about Bitcoin, is it really that great? Is it really not? Do we believe that's not controlled? Meanwhile, BlackRock's making videos about Bitcoin. Anyway, There was this little tagline, there's a little subtitle, if people noticed, during one of the sections of the video where it says, "There's no guarantee that Bitcoin's 21 million supply cap will not be changed." Basically saying that there may be an intention for Bitcoin's 21 million, which that's what everyone banks on for Bitcoin, right? The main reason people buy Bitcoin is they're obsessed with this 21 million cap, right? It's they're obsessed with the fact that it's capped. If it turns out that people will try to hard fork Bitcoin to change this, it might cause a lot of angst in the community. It might cause a lot of sell-off. Now, I don't think having a hard supply cap like Bitcoin does is super necessary. I mean, look at Monero with its tail emission. I think Monero does a very good job at maximizing both having a limited supply, but also providing incentive for miners. It is funny to see this oddly placed subtitle in this BlackRock video, and does go to show that there may be intentions on raising that cap, which goes against what a lot of people have bought Bitcoin for. And moving on, Mike Williams at Just Mike Crypto. On December 30th, USDT will be delisted in the EU on most central exchanges. This is really interesting. The MiCA regulations will come into full effect in Europe, and USA will soon follow. This will change crypto forever. Here's everything I need to know and my recommended workarounds. This is a very long thread. I won't read through this whole thing, but basically, USDT is getting delisted for refusing to comply with certain regulations in the EU, which we'll see how it affects USDT's adoption and what that means for Bitcoin as that happens. I almost want to say it's cool of USDT to not comply with regulation, but USDT is not known to be the most, I guess, unsketchy organization, Tether. But we'll see what happens down the line when it does actually get delisted. Car Battery LB, I have a feeling Monero will hit 500 sooner than we are expecting. Referencing a article from Cointelegraph, Justin, Turkey has passed a law requiring cryptocurrency users to provide identification data for transactions exceeding 425. Is this an actual article or just an image? No article. Okay, just a post. According to Cointelegraph, if this is true, now cryptocurrency users have to provide ID for transactions exceeding 425. What does that mean exactly? They're not getting into it specifically. Does that mean you have to do reporting to a tax agency, or that a company has to force you to ID yourself if you want to pay for something in crypto that exceeds more than $425? That might be what that means. Other ways, that's an incredibly low amount to have to ID 425. That's incredibly low. And that's going to try and create a chilling effect for people who just want to use crypto as a currency, right? And just getting a couple more links here. All right, next up, we've got a post from Luke Parker. I was able to independently confirm these transactions have invalid BP pluses, causing the ZEP supply to be unknown, arbitrarily high, in parentheses. While ZEP mints/burns via conversions are tracked, this isn't via conversions. It's via invalid transactions, which weren't properly validated. So it looks like Luke Parker has uncovered a possible issue with ZEF or Zephyr about burning some tokens to keep the stablecoin where it's supposed to be. And he's already got a GitHub, probably an article/paper on this, or a repository here. Zephyr verify bulletproofs. This is an independent verification of the claims within this post. While there could be a flaw in the methodology present here, it would appear to confirm the allegations. Transactions with invalid range proofs, invalid bullet proofs plus, would cause inflation of the supply to arbitrary amounts with no way to know what the actual supply is. Other than whoever made these transactions coming forward with the answers and proof. The transactions alleged to have invalid range proofs all had ZEP outputs, meaning only the ZEP supply would have been compromised by these. This tool does not look to see if any other transactions also had invalid range proofs. This tool solely verifies the transactions alleged to have invalid range proofs and a pair of others as a sanity check. So, Luke Parker, as always, finding vulnerabilities and problems in other shady crypto projects and exposing them for not being well audited. So looks like ZEP might have a lot of inflation if this issue had been discovered by people who want to take advantage of it. Looks like we got a bunch of super chats here. I'm going to go ahead and go all through all of these. Anna tipped $1. Congrats on the priority project, Doug. May she grow up healthy and happy. Thanks for the tip, Anon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Libertad tipped $10. Congrats to Doug and Sunita on the birth of your baby girl. Happy New Year to the whole MoneroTopia family. Thanks, Libertad.
Wow, very generous. Thank you. Greatly appreciate that.
Got a super chat from Monero Master. Would not recommend Kraken to anyone. Have had massive issues taking XMR off the platform. Look up the recent Trustpilot reviews. Seems to have gone really downhill in the past 8 months or so. That's unfortunate to hear. It might be true, though, because Kraken...
What's going on? What's the issues, though, that people are having? Like they're getting...
Preventing from being able to withdraw is what it sounds like.
Okay.
I did see a couple screenshots floating around. People getting blocked. Like the other exchanges happen, like Coinbase and Binance, but might be starting to happen more with Kraken. They might have had someone breathe on their neck, and now they're having to be more strict for stupid reasons.
But I mean, how would that work? Like, you're already KYC'd, so whatever, there's a red flag with you trying to exchange your whatever Bitcoin or something.
Well, maybe it's just trying to withdraw Monero. I mean, this is also true, and I know this from people who use Kraken with lots of volume. Is that just if you're someone who just deposits Monero, now that's separate from withdrawing, right? But if someone who just deposits Monero, that already puts a sort of flag on your account, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Just the mere fact that they can't do AML checks to the Monero, they go ahead and automatically put a flag on your account if you're depositing lots of Monero. So maybe they're starting to do the same thing if you're withdrawing Monero. They don't want you withdrawing too much. I did miss the super chat earlier from Nihilist, tipped $1.23. We don't need centralized exchanges, just need to keep looking at things from these decentralization glasses. The more they list Monero, the more they are pushing people to these decentralized exchanges that can't be taken down like Havino. Life is good there. Yes, I think it's going to be a while until we get to, it's going to be a long time until we get to a spot where decentralized exchanges can fully replace centralized exchanges, especially when trying to onboard new people, right? But I would like to see, I do think ultimately the decentralized, the delistings of Monero will heavily contribute to a quicker push of decentralized exchanges like Havino, becoming used a lot more. And then we've got, let's see, another one from XMR Cash tipped 50 cents. What's the status on the Copa Monero Kudo? I still see that it is up and not quite fully refunded yet. Did the champions receive some prize Monero? I've been away from Monero Talk live since MoneroTopia, except for that Luke Parker interview this week.
Good question. So it hasn't been fully funded. We're so close. We were asking for 90 XMR. We're at 83.1. On Christmas, somebody reached out to me saying they would basically double any donation that's made. They will donate. So we were at I think 82 when that person pledged to do so. So it means we had 8 Monero we needed to get. So we really just need 4 Monero total, and the donor will double it for us, and we'll be at the final amount. So I'm hoping waiting to get to the full 90 before I give out the prize. I really want to get it fully funded. We will. So yeah, I'm not taking this Kuno down until it gets fully funded. We're gonna make it there. If I have to throw in, I already threw in, I think, like 15 of my own, plus obviously whatever. But if we get to the full 90, that allows us to essentially fully cover our costs for the event itself. There were a lot of costs that went into it. Plus, it gives the winning team a 40 Monero prize, which is, I think, quite significant.
That's huge. It's very significant.
Yeah, they don't make a lot of, these young guys aren't making a lot of money down there, especially compared to kind of the income we have in places like the U.S. So it's going to go a very long way.
About $8,000, right? I mean, $8,000 for where this is being given to is probably a lot of money. It's a good amount.
And what's beautiful too is like they're going to appreciate it as Monero, because these guys have learned about Monero through Alessandro. They've used the Monero among each other, so it's not like we're just giving 40 Monero to somebody who's like, oh great, I'm just gonna go now put this on exchange and turn it into dollars or turn it into whatever. I think a lot of these guys actually appreciate Monero for what it is, and they'll use it. They'll turn around, they'll use it among each other, they'll buy whatever they need with it. I think it's going to go into the Monero circular economy. I think a lot of them will save it. We'll see it as an opportunity to perhaps build up a little bit of a savings. So it's money well spent. So yes, please don't donate anything. Don't send us 0.1 Monero, 0.001 Monero. Please send something if you haven't sent yet. And,
it will be doubled by a very kind Anon, very generous Anon. Yes. Thank you to whoever that Anon is.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody who's made there's been some very generous donations made along the way. Vic, obviously, he was very generous at MoneroTopia. A lot of other people at MoneroTopia that when I was really pushing it generously were throwing Monero at it. So greatly appreciate all those donations. John Bush the other day, he donated a Monero when I made this announcement. So thank you to John. Greatly appreciate that. Obviously,
cool.
I'm not going to call out everybody that made donations. There were a lot of very generous ones, but that one sticks out in my mind because he DM'd me. He's like, yeah, here you go, Doug. I just donated a Monero. So greatly appreciate that, guys. And I really do think it's a worthy cause. It was a success. Really, honestly, it lived up to my expectations of what Copa Monero could be. I would say it highly exceeded my expectations. We had some bumps in the road initially with being able to stream it. But considering the resources we had, Alessandro really turned it into the best it could possibly be. I mean, you go back and watch some of these videos, especially the finals. They had a whole ceremony at the end where they awarded the Copa. You could see that the team's like genuinely passionate about trying to win and very celebratory once they did win. And there were thousands of people over the course of the months that the Copa took place that went and watched the games in person at the stadium. During the finals, it was raining, but even then, I think there was, like 900 people that came to the stadium. So it was a great success, and Alessandro did an amazing job. So he deserves a fully funded Kuno, and he deserves, the winning team deserves a prize. And then hopefully Copa Monero will carry on. I don't know if Alessandro's going to do it. I think it took a lot out of him. He really, I think, got a lot out of it, but I don't know if he's down to do it again. I mean, he's down, I think, to obviously do whatever he needs to do to help make sure it does carry on, to pass it on to somebody else, to other people. But yeah, let's get this fully funded, and then we'll talk about next steps for getting it going again. I would like to try it again, though.
I do have one more. Just pulling up the last links. I do have one more news thing to cover, which was very interesting. If you're active on this platform, here on screen. So Elon Musk has had a recent crash out, an insane crash out on his own platform that he owns. And I posted something short about this because I thought it was funny. Disagree with Elon on immigration? Banned. His infiltration of the coming admin was just for him and the big tech bros to secure the ability to import as many people as they want for cheap labor, further devaluing an American family's ability to make a living and afford housing. and now he wants to push his narrative on the so-called digital public square uncontested. So, I mean, however you feel about Elon Musk or like people's ability to immigrate to the U.S., he's going out of his way to censor people, which is like supposedly what he bought this platform to fix, right? Supposedly he bought this platform and took over it to make it truly a digital public square, and not have insane amounts of preferential censorship. And now he's doing just that. He's basically having an adult temper tantrum and going around and just banning massive, some big accounts that have lots of followers, just because they disagreed with and called him out on some immigration stuff that he's been going off about recently. And he's been banning entire organizations. There's this one giant organization account that was banned, and basically everyone affiliated with it also got suspended permanently. So that's crazy to see, and is unfortunate to see, because I mean, regardless about, you know, which side are you on for these political disputes, it's like, okay, I thought, you know, this was supposed to be a platform for less censorship, but no, that's not the case. It basically is run by a fucking man-child who will just go around.
That's pretty insane. Talk about showing your true colors. Like you said, it doesn't matter what side of the issue you're on. But here's a perfect example of when you would want X to work as intended. Like you said,
allowed to have good discourse. And I mean,
right.
This post is just like shows just how like his true attitude and how he just kind of got a little bit crazy. Somebody
scary.
said, stop trying to optimize something that doesn't exist. Let's optimize H1B. Comparing, I guess, what Elon has said before and now. And his response to that is, the reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and 100 of other companies that made America strong, is because of H1B. I don't think he immigrated to the U.S. quite a long time ago. It might have been before the H1B. And then he said, take a big step back and fuck yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend, which is kind of an insane thing to say. And
yeah, coming from such a powerful person, like, what are you going to do to us? Oh my God. Just declared
This is coming
war.
from the richest man in the world, who's basically usurped the right to gain power. And what I believe, and what a lot of other people have said, is primarily so that he can ensure cheap labor. And if you really think about it, it's pretty messed up. Elon Musk is someone who's benefited substantially, and his success can largely be attributed to the U.S. taxpayer dollars, right? He had not been successful for a long time. His companies had not been profitable for a long time. And he got lots of grants and lots of support from the U.S. government, whether the U.S. taxpayers wanted it or not. The U.S. government gave him a lot of money and propped him up. And then for him to turn around and not want to solely give these jobs primarily to American citizens is pretty screwed up, right? That's pretty messed up. You'd think that he would want to repay the American public by giving them lots of good jobs instead of trying to cheap out and get cheap foreign labor, which ultimately devalues American families' labors and their ability to afford housing and stuff. So,
well, I mean, what do you think of this? You know, I haven't really gone down the rabbit hole too much on this issue to like really make a determination of where I should stand here, but I mean, we definitely want the U.S. to attract the smartest and the brightest, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that the H-1B doesn't really do that, and if you actually look at listings for H-1B, you'd see stuff that's like insane. Like people are trying to get foreign workers for like being a fucking cook in a restaurant. It's like that's an already really low value position. Why would you purposefully devalue it further because you just want a little bit cheaper labor, right? Like you can hardly already live working as a cashier or someone in fast food. Why would you devalue that further? So I've seen
has it always been like that, or that's kind of a recent development in
well, the H-1B hasn't been around for that long. It's only been around for like 30 years. It was created in 1990s when it started.
Right, but have like the criteria changed over the years? It used to be more competitive, and now it's become more lax and applies to everything. Or because I thought it used to be a pretty high level thing. Like it was like, oh, you have to be like.
Well, no, that we have there's a separate visa for that, right? It's like the O1 visa, which is for like
Right.
extraordinary individuals with
Right.
high credentials and high ability. And the
Mhm.
H-1B is more of a lottery, right? It's a lottery right now, right? So it's not really related to your
Mm.
credentials or ability or whatever. But
So what are the
I
two sides of the issue right now? It's like, so obviously Elon is pro H-1B and is like, you know,
yeah.
this is great. It brings in, you know, all the talent into the US. The other side is basically saying get rid of that like how far is the other like I guess there's obviously different levels of extreme there on the other
Yeah,
side
I
of the
think it's
argument,
the
but
other
like
side is probably get rid of it completely. But I do think at this point Elon Musk just wants to do. I mean, this isn't like something that's like a small case either. This is a lot of companies have done this where they will go the route of firing a lot of like American companies go the route of firing a lot of Americans so they can import people for way cheaper, right? So that's something that happens a lot with major companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google. And there was this case that went somewhat viral. This was years ago, but Disney basically had imported a bunch of foreigners on H-1Bs, and they made the current people who were working train their replacements, which is super
mhm,
fucked up, right?
mhm,
And I think that's kind of what Elon Musk wants to do. He wants to secure. I mean, look at what he owns, right? He owns these massive companies. He wants
mhm,
to secure cheap labor, right?
mhm, mhm,
So,
mhm.
and I mean, that's the main reason why
Yeah, but
he.
aren't we all about like free market as possible? I mean, isn't that, you know?
Well, I mean, that depends on where you stand.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, some people will be like, okay, that doesn't matter. Anyone should be able to come here. I don't fall exactly into that category. But I think there is something devious about trying to um go out of your way to hire foreign labor at a cheaper cost. By the way, what they do
The,
is that they create these listings for jobs
mhm.
lower than the actual like someone what an American wants. Um,
Yeah, but America's always been like so. Once again, so maybe you know, obviously, like my parents, my family all came in through like Ellis Island at some point or the other. Like my grandparents on both sides, right? And so like back then, right? It was very much open. People coming in from all sorts of jobs, right? It wasn't just high level specialized work. It was anybody can come over here, and obviously what we saw out of that was all those people that came through at those times like became America and made American culture what it is today. And the argument you're seeing now though is that like no, we don't want immigrants to come in and like ruin and take over American culture, which why can't it be like the way it was where people are coming, whether or not they're coming in to do specialized work or they're coming in on these H-1Bs. Yes, they're competing against the locals, but they're becoming American, right? Like why is there this concern today that the immigrants today that come are no longer going to contribute it positively to American culture and adapt to American culture as opposed to the past? Uh, you know, I feel like there's like a big argument on the other side of Elon is really a culture argument. Is essentially is what's being made that the American culture will be destroyed if we continue down this path, and I just don't see why can't we have both, right? Why can't we have, you know, really open competitive board, like where pretty much people can come in if they want to work hard, they can come in. And why, you know, why can't they also become assimilated part of the culture and part of what makes America what it is? And why is there this feeling that that's no longer a
well, I
possibility?
don't
I
think
don't know.
the arguments about that they can't do that. I think it's more of an economic argument in how the H-1B is abused to gain cheap foreign labor and devalue,
Mm,
um, and basically fire Americans who need to be paid more. Right? They're not willing to work for less, uh, and they'll just go out of their way to hire cheap foreign labor and replace them. Right? I think that's more of the argument that's being had.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
I'm seeing this kind of cultural argument though. Like it's like just kind of anti-immigrant in general. Like we don't want them to ruin American culture. I'm seeing that being argued on X, which I think is quite extreme. Um, and yeah, I don't know. That's a little troubling to me to kind of see. I don't know what you're not seeing that on X. You're not getting that, picking up that gist.
I mean, yeah, I've definitely seen that. I think in regards to this specifically, this issue specifically, the H-1B issue, I think it is more people are upset about how it's been used. Um, and I mean, there's something to be said about just like allowing unlimited amounts of now the H-1B doesn't allow limited amounts of people. It doesn't even do that. But I think there is something to be said about that. I mean, look how quickly like a country could be like changed or taken over by people who come from countries that have a much larger population. I mean, look what's happening in lots of European countries. Look what's happening in Canada. Um, I don't think it's wrong for people to want to preserve the way their country is now, right? Um, does that mean no immigration? I mean, not necessarily. I think most people are just not happy about and then like forget even the H-1B, right? The amount of illegal immigration is probably a bigger issue.
Yeah,
There's
that's
been
a
a
big,
lot more, significantly more
people.
people.
The real problem is, yeah, people coming here illegally, or if they're coming here illegally, getting handouts, getting subsidies. That's a problem, right? Because now you're giving them an unfair advantage. If everybody wants to start at zero, that's fine, right? So whether you're born here and you're starting at zero, but yeah, we're currently in a situation where the people that are born here have more of a disadvantage than the people that are coming here fresh with nothing and that are giving like subsidies. Doors are opening for them. They're giving like, so the like what needs to be solved is making sure the people that are already here aren't starting effectively with the handicap, right? Like the young men and women that do want to get these jobs, they need to be not handicapped versus people that are coming and starting fresh. It's almost like there's more of an advantage if you come as a foreigner, right? I think is really ultimately what the issue is, right? Is it
Yeah,
is
and
that
I
is that a fair
mean,
assessment?
yeah, and I mean, I lean on more the position of like, you need to like, I'm more nationalist than probably a lot of libertarian people are. I care about taking care of Americans first over people who are not American, right? So that's where I stand on. If I had a massive tech company, I would not want to devalue Americans' position and their ability to make money in their position by hiring cheap foreign labor. I want to hire people who are Americans, like as an American with an American company. And I know there's a lot of companies that like have remote work, like Cake, for instance, right? Cake's different scenario, right? It's a very niche, it's a niche job, and or it's a niche industry, and it's kind of a remote decentralized work. I'm not talking about that necessarily, but more of like, okay, like all of Elon Musk companies are like American, and there's a lot of he's importing people, like people physically. It's like not just remote jobs, but it's like physical people coming here physically to do that over someone who's already an American. So I think there should be more emphasis on caring about the people who are actually here first, right? Instead of trying to just give jobs and money to
Yeah.
people who are abroad, right? Like you can do that, but Americans need stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, a lot of the people that are here are kind of this generation that's just up and coming. They do, it does feel like they have a disadvantage in a lot of ways, right? Like housing is super expensive. It's like they're on this U.S. treadmill, and now they're competing against somebody who's
Yeah,
coming in
Americans
who.
shouldn't have to compete with other people who are willing to do the same job for cheaper, right? Who are from like other countries that don't make as much, right? Because they'll come here for and do the same job for much less. But it's like, okay,
Yeah, but that should be okay. That should be okay. But then the issue should be that the person who's already here should be able to compete with that, right? That's what I see as the problem. And then it's just a matter of meritocracy. Who's the best at the skill, at the task, at being part of the culture of the company? Like, who do you want to hire? And the person that's already here, if they are just as skilled, plus they have a little bit of this, maybe cultural element that maybe you'd want at your company because they're a better team player. Like, they shouldn't be at a disadvantage given that they grew up in the US, right? And that's the problem that needs to be solved in my mind. Right. Let the competition take place, but the person that's already here shouldn't be essentially handicapped by growing up in the US because now they're like laden with debt. They're already like on this treadmill that they can't get off. They have student loan debt from, the expensive corrupt school system here that doesn't even make sense. Like these
I'm gonna bring
Alaskan
Alaskan on up because he wants to respond, and I know he's got
yeah.
We
could let's open this up to viewers on stage. We can continue the debate, but that's how I look at, like, that's the issue that needs to be solved. It's for the people that are here. It needs to be that they're not at a disadvantage for being born and raised in the U.S. is kind of the way I look at it. How you solve that, I do not know. I don't have, but that's where I think the solution needs to come from. Not so much let's not let people come in and compete. Let's make it when people do come in and compete, those that are already here can fairly compete against them.
I mean, but regardless of which way you side on that issue, I think we can all agree that Elon Musk is just a total charlatan, a man-child,
he's now
using his own platform to silence people who speak against
scary.
the king.
That's very scary considering he's, a conversation away from Trump at any moment in the day. He's going to be like dictating a lot of the policy that's happening with Doge and all this stuff. And it's like he's going to be ruling kind of with it seemingly with an iron fist. And that's a little scary, that we're trusting Elon at that point. And as I've always said, I see Monero as the litmus test, and I've never seen him say a positive thing about Monero. Instead, he's pumping Dogecoin, so I don't trust the guy.